Morning, everybody. Welcome to the next online seminar. Rob Gucci-Kemper here from Semler. Today we are out of the field and back into the box or back on the floor, whether it's indoors or outdoors. Continuing from where we had Tom Roach talking about box terminology and the floor layout back in, it was late November last year. So now we welcome England's Pete Wilson, who's going to take that to the next level, talking about box offensive strategies. Lots of good stuff there for the box player, the box coach, and lots of things that a field coach can take into the field game to improve everyone's play. This has been recorded, so you know the format for these things. You can use your virtual hand, and please have your cameras off when Pete's talking, and then put them on when you need to talk and get into the Q&A. Pete, the floor is yours.
Amazing. Cheers, Rob, and thanks for having me. And hi to everyone that is on the call, and if you're watching the recording, hi to you as well. Now, just check. I am the worst person when it comes to Microsoft Teams, so I'm just going to double check with everybody that can everybody see my screen.
That is looking fine. Fire away.
There we go. Fantastic. So, as Rob says, I'm here to talk about kind of box offensive coaching and strategies. I was just saying to the guys on the call before, my presentation is probably going to be around about 45 minutes, I would imagine. And I'll obviously try and answer kind of questions throughout, but hopefully it's that good that you won't even need any questions. So we'll make a start. So just to introduce who I am, obviously I'm Pete Wilson. I represented England at the 2017 Euros. For those that know me, I've obviously been in the game for quite a long time, whether it be head of lacrosse at Bristol Uni, or head of lacrosse at Westonbirt School, or LDO for England Lacrosse, or anything, all these things. So thanks for having me, and hopefully I should be able to give you some useful info today. So basically, just to give a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to recap just a little stuff that Rochi spoke about in his last presentation, just really for the kind of the purpose of my presentation, just so we can kind of remember some terminology and kind of offensive positions. I'm going to talk through kind of a bit of a kind of what I like to call basic principles of box offense. The comparisons with field. I think as box players, we kind of get that question a lot in terms of how it differs and what the similarities are. Very, very quick brief thing just about kind of the shot clock and how that works. And then I'm going to talk you through kind of offensive formations, which I hope this is probably going to be the most useful bit for everybody. Kind of give you some examples of how these formations might work. Discussion of kind of things that we hear like picks, brushes, slips, seals, all that kind of stuff. And then to round off, if everyone is still with me and not asleep, I'm hopefully going to give you some kind of drills that you guys can use in your field practices as well as your box practices that kind of transfer over to kind of both games. And obviously kind of working with Bristol Uni, a lot of the time I get kind of asked how I kind of like build up people's kind of decision-making skills and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to kind of share that with you, and hopefully you can take it away and transfer it kind of into your practices and your games. So just a very, very quick recap. Now, some people might be, they've heard this quite a lot now, but as I said, just a quick recap of some of the stuff that Rochi was saying. In box lacrosse, kind of in the offensive end, we want to kind of divide the field kind of in half, as you can kind of see, obviously with this line. And we basically kind of have our right-handed players on the left side of the floor and our left-handed players on the right side of the floor, just to kind of give us a better angle on the goal. Now, it's at this point where I'm going to say now, the teacher inside of me would have killed me in terms of, on some of these slides, there's quite a bit of text, but what I'm trying to do is do a presentation which you guys can then take away and kind of, you know, read without me kind of being here, and hopefully it should make sense. So this stuff just about kind of the right left side of the floor. I'm not going to kind of talk too much about it because Roachy did. But also just wanted to recap just a couple of these positions that Roachy spoke about that you'll find in the offense. So essentially you kind of have 10 areas on the floor where you would find yourself as an offensive player. Now, essentially, it's almost kind of 5 positions on each side of the floor, and they're essentially mirrored with kind of the positions X and Y kind of thrown in there. Now, just a reminder for the purpose of the presentation, X in box, we tend to have it at the halfway point instead of behind the goal as you do in field. And then obviously we've got the Y behind the cage as well. But I think really for the kind of, obviously, so we can kind of get moving, I won't talk about this too much, and you can kind of go back to kind of Roachy's presentation. But I just wanted just to show you this image, just so we've kind of got these positions in our heads in terms of kind of what they are, where they are, and whatnot. So first thing that I kind of really wanted to talk about is kind of some position terminology. Kind of back on this slide, we've kind of got the areas that we kind of find ourselves. But I just wanted to talk about kind of the names of kind of the positions that we might find or you might hear. So I'll go through these now. Obviously, we've just got kind of 3 right-handed players here and 2 left-handed players. So I'm just going to go through kind of each of these guys. So basically down here by the goal, we find our crease guys. Now that's the same as kind of the area that Roachy was talking about last time. They kind of find themselves pretty much in front of the net or just kind of in front to the side in the kind of forward position. We've got our kind of our cornermen, or cornermen, should I say, which kind of they tend to post up kind of by the half boards in this area here and do quite a lot of work kind of with the crease guy. I would probably say that I would say that I'm kind of more of a cornerman, if I'm honest. And then we've got a point man or a swinger. So basically this person can basically be either kind of left or right-handed, and essentially is kind of responsible kind of swinging the ball from kind of each side of the field, as it were. Now, any of these players can be a transitional player depending on what is happening kind of on the floor. Now, it tends to be the guys that are kind of further back towards the halfway line. So obviously the kind of the point man or the cornerman. You know, for example, I don't know, this cornerman right here might take a shot at the goal, and then this lefty cornerman down here might be running back as kind of a transitional player. But we tend to have a number of guys, kind of 2 or 3 guys that we kind of allocate the transitional player position to. But it can be kind of anybody. So I've just put that in there, kind of in brackets, just so you're kind of aware of it. Now, the basic principles of a box offense. We get this question a lot in terms of how it kind of differs or how it compares to the field game. Now, I think a lot of the time people kind of go, oh, it's completely different. It's opposite to field. You know, I've never seen anything like it before, which I find quite funny, because it isn't actually that much different to field when you actually look at the kind of the basic principles that we kind of put into it. Now, obviously it is different to field. But I just wanted to kind of run through kind of a few that, you know, that we would kind of teach kind of in the England team. So obviously kind of being creative and unpredictable. Box is a much more kind of fluid game. It's fast paced. We want to move the ball kind of as much as we can. Now, as I said, that really should be happening in field as well. But I think in box, it does tend to be a little bit more kind of all over the place when everyone's kind of moving their feet and things. Now, moving your feet as much as possible, especially off ball. Okay, now I think this is probably one of the biggest differences in box. We love picks and rolls. You basically should be picking, rolling as much as you can. Now, that is on ball and off ball, but we tend to find that we have a lot more off ball movement in box lacrosse. We want to swing the ball from one side of the floor to the other as much as possible. So what I mean by that is kind of if it's on the right hand side of the floor, we want to kind of work something and then swing it to the left side of the floor kind of as much as possible. So you should be kind of working between kind of 3, 4, 5 seconds on one side, swing the ball to the other side and work something there. Now, obviously, I mean pass the ball across by swing. It's just kind of a box term that we use. But obviously, yeah, we want to be moving that ball over that kind of the halfway midline. The kind of the midline in the attacking end of the field as much as possible. Decision making is massive in box lacrosse. You have to be able to kind of make decisions, I would say, a lot quicker in box lacrosse than field. Now, at the end of my presentation, as I said, I'm hopefully going to give you some kind of drills that you can use to hopefully enhance that decision making stuff. As I said, picks and picks and picks, rolls and rolls and rolls, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. And also kind of we do have defensive responsibilities in box lacrosse as well, whether that is kind of subbing off the floor as quickly as you can or transitioning back as a transitional player to stop kind of the breakaway or fast break, as it were. Now, if you look at those principles, there isn't actually that much difference, really, I think, between field and box. However, I think really the biggest difference I would say is obviously kind of the more pick and roll stuff, and also just kind of angles. I think in field lacrosse you tend to kind of do one-on-one dodges and dodge down the alley, whereas in box lacrosse dodging is kind of it's lower down, should we say, on the scale of things that we kind of want to be doing. And in box lacrosse we want to be coming across the goal a little bit more and stuff like that. So differences, but obviously similarities kind of as well. Now, just very, very quickly, just wanted to just talk about the shot clock. Now, I know in field, kind of in the college game and PLL and stuff now, there's all different shot clocks and there's like 60-second shot clocks, I think it is now. In box lacrosse, we have a 30-second shot clock, which basically is 30 seconds from when you claim possession of the ball to get a shot off in your attacking end. Now, included in this is 10 seconds to get the ball over the halfway line. If you fail to do that, it is a turnover of possession. Now, every time we hit the goal or the goalie, the shot clock will reset, essentially. Okay, so if it's a goal, obviously it's a goal. If it hits the post or hits the goalie and bounces off them, we get kind of a reset of the shot clock if we get possession back. Now, one thing that I really wanted to stress in this presentation about the shot clock is a lot of field guys come over to the box game and they think because there's a 30-second shot clock, because it's box, because it's all these, all this stuff, they think that they have to go a million miles per hour. And a lot of the time they'll run into the attacking end and they'll take a shot straight away. That is basically what we don't want to happen. Really, we want the guys to use the shot clock time as much as you can. So kind of get it into the attacking end, work loads of picks and rolls, move the ball, and basically wait for the good opportunity to score a goal. Now, obviously, if there is an amazing opportunity, then obviously you're going to take it. But really, what we want to do is kind of run down the shot clock because the other team doesn't have possession, and we can get, if we have the ball, they don't, and obviously we can do some more stuff with it. Now, we kind of, I like to coach, basically, you want to work something for kind of 20 seconds. When it gets to about 10 seconds left on the shot clock, you need to start thinking about kind of working something, trying to get to the goal. Some of your guys might be looking to substitute. And then when we've got 5 seconds left, we need to kind of ask ourselves, do we have a shot? Is it a good shot? If it is, then take it. If it isn't, then perhaps, we just want to kind of dump the ball kind of in the corner and allow our team to kind of substitute and get back to stop the breakaway. I think a lot of the mistake field guys do is they just wang a shot, it pings off the boards, and then it goes back into our defensive end, and our defense just isn't set up whatsoever. So just a couple of tips there about the shot clock.
We've got a question from Ben Young.
Yes, go on, Ben.
Jump in.
Does the back of the goal count in terms of resetting the shot clock?
It doesn't, no. So it has to be the front of the goalie, basically, or the post. Now, I'm pretty certain, and here's me. This is a typical player who doesn't know the rules, but I'm pretty certain as well that if you hit the shot off the back of the goalie, it should technically not be a goal either. So if it hits the back of the goal and goes in, technically, if you've purposefully kind of shot it at the back of the goalie's head, for example, and it goes in, it technically shouldn't be a goal. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody on that one, but no, it should be basically the front, essentially the front of the goal. So no, not the back of the goal. If it hits the back of the goal, it would be the goalie's ball essentially. But yes, but obviously we want to be smart with our shots, and if we can get a reset, so if we take a good shot and it bounces off the goalie and we can get possession back, that's brilliant. And then obviously we want to kind of run that shot clock down even more. Now, this is where I want to kind of go on to kind of offensive formations. So in field, I think you kind of, you hear your kind of your 2-3-1s, your 1-4-1s, your 2-2-2s, all that kind of stuff. Now we have the same thing in box lacrosse. They're just different formations. Now, as I say to kind of any player or any coach, there are basically a million ways to play lacrosse. And, a lot of the time you kind of get someone who's like, oh, well, I wasn't taught this way, which is absolutely fine. 100, absolutely fine. What I say is you want to kind of analyze what works for you, what works for your team, and kind of, see the positives and negatives of each formation. But I wanted to basically talk about two kind of main formations that we will see in box lacrosse, and just give you some examples of perhaps some things that we might do, or how they might work. So the first one is the 3-2. Now, pretty simply, this essentially just means we've got 3 guys on one side of the floor and 2 guys on the other. Now, in this example here, we've got 3 right-handed players and 2 left-handed players down here. Now, the 3 essentially represents what we call the strong side. So here we've got kind of 3 right-handed players, so we've got more players on that side of the floor. In England, I would say that we tend to play kind of righty strong most of the time, just because we have more right-handed players. But obviously you can play it with 3 left-handed players and 2 right-handed players instead if you wanted. And then obviously we've got the 2-man side, which we refer to kind of as the weak side. Now, the weak side here is essentially awesome because you've got a lot more space to work with these 2 guys. The strong side's a little bit more kind of clustered, as it were, because obviously you've got an extra person there kind of to kind of work with. But that is essentially what we mean by a 3-2 offensive alignment. So 3 players on this side of the floor and 2 on this side of the floor. Now, just in terms of what these guys can do, as I said, the teacher inside of me would have killed me with the amount of text is on this slide. So, don't feel that you have to kind of read it through. Perhaps it might just be better kind of to listen what I'm kind of saying. But I've just kind of given some options in terms of what these guys can do when we're set up in this formation. Now, the 3-man side, as I said, you've got a little less space because there's 3 people there. But there's loads of different things that you can do. It might be that this point man here might kind of run down and plonk himself kind of in the wide position behind the goal to kind of give a little bit more space for these 2 guys. Or it might be that he comes here to swing the ball to the weak side. It might be that one of these guys decides to go to the other side of the floor and work something on their weak side to flip it. It might be that these guys are doing something down here and these guys are just simply looking to feed it to that side. Now, essentially, obviously, I've just given loads of different things that you can do. But what we want to do is kind of create movement. We want the ball moving as much as we can. We want to be kind of setting picks and rolls, kind of cutting towards the goal. It might be this person comes across, sets a pick for this person that rolls off it. It might be that he sets a pick on ball, this person runs up and then swings it to the other side of the floor. Those are different things that they can do. Now the two-man side, obviously, as I said, there's a little bit more space for these guys to work something. So it might be that one of these guys might decide to take a one-on-one, for example, because they've got a little bit more space. We wouldn't really look to kind of take a one-on-one here because obviously there's a lot of traffic. So it might be that we kind of get the ball over to this side, and one of these guys might run a bit of a dodge or kind of a pick and roll. Now I've put in kind of brushes, slips, picks, all that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to talk about these slightly later on, but just kind of giving you some options essentially of what you could do. Now I'm going to give an example both on ball and off ball. Now, as I said, there's loads of different things that you can do, but hopefully this will just kind of give you just a bit of inspiration or a bit of an idea of what you could do. So in this on ball example, the ball is up here with this kind of righty point man. Now, this is obviously our strong side. So we've got our three guys here, and down here we have our weak side with the two lefties. Now, just a quick example, this person might pass down to this cornerman, and then he might kind of engage his defender here, come and set a pick, and this guy might then just kind of dodge around that, use that pick as a screen and go to goal. Now, as that's happening, this guy might just go away, as I said on my last slide, just go away to kind of create a little bit more space for that, and these two left-handed players might just do kind of a quick switch, and it might be the person coming around with the ball either takes a shot on the goal or draws one of these defenders and dumps it off, you know, whatever that might be. Now, we'll go on to this a bit later as well, but if you perhaps kind of do a play like this, or you work something and it hasn't quite worked, you just kind of bring the ball back out again, give it to the other side, and then they might work something very similar. So that's just kind of an example on ball. Please, you know, feel free, obviously, you know, if there's any questions, if I'm speaking a bit too fast or something doesn't make sense, obviously, please do let me know. But it's just, as I said, just to give you some ideas. Now, off ball, it might be that the righty strong side is kind of just moving the ball between the three of them. They might be kind of setting picks for each other and just moving that ball. Now, as that's happening, the two lefty players down here might decide that they just want to do kind of a really simple pick and roll that's off ball. So this lefty player here might come down the floor, set a back pick on this defender, and this kind of lefty crease guy who's found himself out here is going to kind of come across and then look to kind of take a feed from the strong side, for example. So lots of different things. Now, we tend to kind of say, or I tend to say in box lacrosse, like we can kind of implement plays. Now, it might be that we have, you know, the slide that I just showed you before. It might be that this is a play. So it might be that this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to run. But normally it tends to be a little bit more just kind of fluid. So the attacker kind of working, they're kind of seeing what's going on. They're setting picks, they're setting rolls, they're doing all these different things. And hopefully an opportunity kind of will be created from this. So just a couple of examples kind of in the 3-2. Now, me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this formation, just because I'm a righty player and I find it a little bit more difficult to work with a bit more traffic on the side of the floor. So I'm going to just give you another formation that we kind of see. I mean, perhaps a little bit more so kind of in the England team, especially when I was playing. And that is the 1-2-2 formation. So basically, there is not much difference in between the 3-2 and the 1-2-2. The only difference really is we kind of have this point man that plonks himself just kind of below the halfway point. So really all that's happened is they've just kind of moved to this point here. Now, this person can be either right-handed or left-handed. Obviously, if you're both, that's even better. But what this does is it creates a little bit more space for the guys kind of down here. Now, the reason why we call it a 1-2-2 is if we look kind of down, well, There's a number of reasons why. If we look down from kind of the halfway line, looking down at the offense, we obviously got this 1, and then we've got 2 kind of across, so 2 kind of in the midline and 2 kind of at crease. Or you can look at it as in we've got 2 guys down here, 2 guys down here. Now, some coaches might call this a 1-4. Now, again, if you thinking kind of field mentality, if you just plonked a guy here in the field game, it would kind of basically be a 1-4-1, essentially. But really kind of the difference between kind of the field and the box game is really in field, we would kind of have these two crease guys kind of working together, whereas most of the time, not always, but in box lacrosse, it tends to be these 2 right-handed players are working together and these 2 left-handed players are working together. Now, as I said, what this does is it just opens up a little bit more of the floor for everybody. And we might kind of see perhaps a little bit more kind of one-on-one stuff because there's just more space to work with. But also we've got kind of your pick and rolls and all that kind of stuff. Now, what tends to happen is these guys might work something for kind of 3, 4, 5 seconds, say. If there's nothing on, they would then swing to this person, this point man here, who would then swing it to the other side of the floor, and then they might work something. Now, this point man can either kind of post up there, but it kind of gets a bit predictable. So this postman might decide just to, once he's swung the ball, he might kind of cut inside, and one of these guys might take his place as the point man, just to get a bit of kind of rotation, a bit of movement, that kind of stuff. But as I said, what I like about this one is it just creates a little bit more space for the guys on the floor. Now, again, just to give you a couple of examples of what you could do. You know, this is a really simple, just on ball kind of pick and roll. So because we have this space now down here, because this point man's kind of out of the way, you know, we could do this in a 3-2 as well on this side if it was the weak side. But you know, just to give you an example, this crease guy might kind of engage his defender, set a back pick here, and then this lefty player might kind of come down the boards, maybe look inside to kind of pass that back to the picker, you know, or something. If it's not on, they would just kind of again pass to this point man here, and then who would pass it to kind of the other side. So that's kind of an on-ball example. As I said, if I'm not making any sense, please do say. But another one is an off-ball, which, you know, again, really quite simple. We might find it on the right-hand side of the floor. These 2 lefty players, you know, this cornerman might kind of look to cut in for a feed, but then jump back out, set a back pick. This person might come round. As that's happening, this righty cornerman might pass up to this point man here, who then passes down to that player that's just kind of run off that pick. So, you know, we can do things on both sides of the floor, whether it is on ball or off ball. In box lacrosse, though, as I said before, we tend to see a lot more opportunities come from the off ball stuff because the defense are kind of focused on what's happening with the ball and not so focused on what's going on with the guys that are on the opposite side of the floor. So it's kind of here where we want to kind of take advantage and kind of work something. Yes.
Hey, I've got a question on that one.
Yes.
Is there a risk that the defender who's marking the 1 just ends up sinking in and just completely congests the crease, and you then can't really work a shot? When
you say the defender marking the 1, which one do you mean? Sorry.
The defender where your cursor is.
So this defender here,
yeah.
Yes, 100%. Okay, definitely. But what we would tend to, so say you set here and it hasn't quite worked, and this person's kind of stopped back, posted back. You might run another pick. You might run another pick and roll. Now, what you would hope to see is if this ball is passed up to this point man, because he's got the ball, he becomes a threat. So really, this defender needs to come out and play him, because if he just sinks back, this person can kind of step in a bit closer for the shot. In this situation right now, you could argue that this point man could take a one-on-one with this defender here, seeing as the defenders are kind of spaced out as they are. But yes, you are quite right. You know, this defender might drop back and just plonk himself here. And if that's the case, then, as I said, we just want to run kind of more, more picks and rolls, try and move the defense a little bit more. It might be that this point man cuts all the way down, comes over here, and tries to take that defender with him to give the opportunity for this person to kind of come up the floor and swing the ball to that person instead. Does that kind of make sense, Rob?
Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, it's a great question, and I think really this is kind of the point that I'd like to try and make with the field side of things is the field I tend to find is a lot more kind of like set structure. You guys kind of are in this spot and you don't really move much from that spot until you do kind of a dodge or a play or whatever, whereas box is a lot more kind of like you want to just keep moving, keep working stuff, and obviously assess what your defenders are doing. If it's a case that defenders sagged in and just not moving, engage them. Okay, so this person, as I said, might run down, engage that defender, take him out of the way to kind of create space kind of somewhere else on the floor. Now, picks. Okay, now I would say that this is probably the biggest difference in my eyes between field and box lacrosse, in the sense that box lacrosse has a lot more picks than we see kind of in field, and also the way that we actually set a pick is different. In field lacrosse, we tend to kind of have our feet shoulder width apart, our stick in here, and we're super still. And if you literally breathe, the referee is going to call you for a moving pick. Whereas in box lacrosse, we can essentially move when we set picks. Now I'm going to talk a bit about this now, but I just wanted just to say what a pick actually is. Now it's amazing. I do obviously a lot of coaching at Bristol, and I have sometimes players, especially in the ladies game, kind of come up to uni and they don't actually know what a pick is. So just for kind of those watching that perhaps less experienced, just wanted to say what a definition of a pick actually is. So this is when an offensive player legally blocks the path of a defender to open up another offensive player for a shot or to receive a pass. So it's essentially creating an obstacle for a defender that they might turn into. They get tangled up, and it just creates a little bit more space on the floor. Now, the difference. Well, I'll go through these, and I'll talk about the difference in a sec. In the field game, I kind of feel that a lot of coaches will say to you, we're not allowed to set a pick on ball because it's going to bring a defender and you're going to cause a double team and all that kind of stuff. Me as a coach, especially in the field game, I think I personally don't agree with that. I think you should be setting picks both on ball and off ball. And we especially do this in the box game. We basically set picks everywhere. We literally set them on ball, off ball, 2, 3, 4 at a time. A lot of the time it isn't always the first one that is going to get you the opportunity. It might be kind of the second, the third, maybe even the fourth or the fifth. So we want to be setting picks on the floor as much as possible. Now, another thing in box that we want to focus on is engaging your defender first. So going back to kind of the question that Rob just asked about perhaps the defender kind of sagging back in, what we want to do really is we want to kind of engage with that defender first to kind of make him or her take notice of me, and then go and set a pick on my teammate's defender. That basically opens up the floor a lot more. Now I've got some examples to show you, but it's really important that you engage your defender first. Now, the actual pick in box lacrosse, as I said, they do not have to be still like in the field game. Okay. However, that doesn't mean that you can just lay somebody out or knock them over. It's basically more of kind of you're allowed to kind of put your stick on a player and then almost kind of like push off them, essentially. Okay, so obviously in box lacrosse, it gets a little violent, it gets a bit rough. So obviously you're going to have some digs in there, some jabs, obviously, but it's more kind of like you place your stick or your body on another player and almost push away from them. Now with that push, you basically are kind of creating that defender to essentially take a step, be off balance, which is really useful for us as an offense to kind of open up the floor. Now, A pick should be set between the shoulders and the waist. Now you can use your stick, you can use kind of your behind, you can use your shoulder to kind of set those picks. But when you do set a pick, you want to try and have your stick vertical. A lot of guys you see in the box game kind of come in horizontal stick to kind of get that jab in. But a defender, not that they're allowed to, but a defender might grab onto it. You sometimes look a bit silly if they grab onto it and you drop it. But also you're not in a particularly good position to kind of take passes or anything like that. So you want to try and set a pick with your stick in a vertical position. Now, I'll talk about this in a little sec with some diagrams, but you always want to make sure that you're setting your pick goal side. Now, what I mean by that is you're setting a pick basically in between the goal and your teammate's defender. Now, I'll show you why you want to do that with some diagrams in a minute. And then just like field, once you've set a pick, you want to roll towards the net with your stick up looking for the ball, because you are going to be the person that is open. Now you want to open up towards the ball carrier. A lot of guys will turn the wrong way. You want to basically, it's really hard to kind of to discuss this on screen, but say the ball's over there and I've set a pick, I want to kind of open up my body so I'm always facing the ball. Now, the power of the L is something that I'm going to talk about within my diagrams. This is something really I like to talk about. And it's basically about the angles at which you set your picks, which I'll talk about. And I'll also just talk quickly about brush and slip picks, which essentially are pretend picks. So just an example of the pick. So this is what we saw in one of the last slides. So we've got this cornerman down here with the ball and this crease guy working alongside him. Now, as you can kind of see, these guys, if we were to take this blue line and this kind of midline that I've drawn on as kind of like a reference point, if you look at these guys, the way that they're set up, they're almost set up as a 45-degree angle to kind of these lines. I hope that kind of makes sense to everybody. But what this does is it puts us in a good position to do what I call personally an L pick. Now, what that means is this player is going to engage with this defender first. So he's going to come this way. He's going to try and take that defender. Now he's going to go on that trajectory first. So that's kind of the first bit of the L. He's then going to, once he's done that, he's then going to come and set a back pick on this defender here, which is goal side. So this pick is goal side. So he is in between this defender and the goal here. Now, what this does is essentially, if you create a switch in this situation where this defender has to come and get the ball, this player is in perfect opportunity to get a pass and to goal. Now, I've done a little bit of an animation essentially in a second, which hopefully shows it. But basically what happens is, sorry, it's a bit difficult to kind of explain this on the screen, but this lefty player was here originally. He's come down, he's engaged the defender, he's set that back pick. Now this player is going to drive down the boards and hopefully create this switch here. So this defender is going to leave his player and come towards the ball. Now this defender here is basically in a terrible position because there's nothing he can do. This player has set a back pick on him, so he's going to be off balance. He's nowhere near the goal. And basically what this guy's going to do, he's going to roll inside, and if you just create this pass over the top, it's basically a one-on-one with the cage. Now, hopefully you get a shot off. If not, it might be that this defender here sees it and slides across, and it's just a quick dump to this player. So if you execute these picks correctly, you basically have a situation where the offense can't lose. Unless you're a terrible finisher like me, you shouldn't be losing. You've essentially created a 2-on-1 situation, and sometimes basically a 1-on-1 with the keeper. So that is kind of what I mean by the 45-degree angle. So these guys are kind of set up. As I said, this guy comes in with this L shape, engages his defender, sets this back pick, and then hopefully creating this switch. Now, we call this an up screen or kind of an up pick because this person is coming up the floor to do this. But hopefully, I don't know, I'm going to play a little animation. Now, hopefully it might kind of explain it a little bit. So let's see what happens. So ball's here. Now I've just moved this player slightly this way just for the animation purpose, but he should kind of be here. Now you'll see that this guy is going to come set that pick, back pick, and then you'll see the position that they find themselves in. So hopefully you saw that. If not, I'll just play it again. So this defender's coming in, setting that back pick. This defender's had to switch. Now this offensive player here, now you can see this defender is out of the game. So we've created a 2-on-1 situation with this defender here, and all that needs to happen is this guy drives down, pops it over the top, and then that guy has a 1-on-1 with the goal. Did everyone manage to see that, or?
Yeah, that was fine for me. Thank you.
Perfect. So that's kind of what we would call kind of an up screen. So as I said, this guy's kind of setting the L up the floor, and then he's kind of put in that position where it should just be a little pop over the top, and it's a 1-on-1 basically to the goal, or kind of a draw and dump like we kind of see in field, where this defender gets drawn and we kind of dump it over the top. Now just to kind of reverse it and just show you a down screen or a down pick, basically it's just whether if it's an up screen, we're going kind of up the floor towards the halfway line. If it's a down screen, we're kind of going towards the goal. But again, in this example, we've got this crease guy that's kind of come out towards kind of the half boards area, which is just kind of below the blue line here. This cornerman that's found himself here is going to engage his defender, the same thing in that L. You can see that they're kind of set up in a 45-degree angle relative to the kind of the other lines. They're going to kind of come down. They're going to again set a back pick. Okay, so you want to find the defender's back. You want to be goal side. So again, between the defender and the goal. Now again, you want to try and create that switch. So that guy's come down. He's set a pick here. And this defender is going to have to switch if this person here drives kind of topside. And then obviously this player is in a perfect position. If you can get that pass across, then yeah, again, it's kind of a 1-on-1. Now, one thing I'll always say in box lacrosse is basically you need to be looking to feed the ball off a pick basically instantly. I think kind of the field mentality, a lot of the time I see in field is guys will set a pick. They either don't roll or the person that's dodged off the pick doesn't feed the ball quick enough. Now, the reason we want to obviously feed the ball quick enough is obviously these guys are going to be switching. They're going to be talking. This guy's going to be running out with his stick up. If he gets his stick in the passing lane, there's our opportunity kind of gone. So we want to be basically, you know, this person here needs to be driving upfield, looking to feed that ball as quickly as they can to create that situation where we essentially either have a 1-on-1 goal or a 2-on-1 with this righty player here. Okay. Now I've just slowed down the animation. Hold on, I'm just going to move the teams. Oh, it's gone. Am I still here? Hello?
You're still there.
Okay, I've lost. I don't know what's happened. I've lost the team, but it's all good. It's all good. So I've just slowed down the animation a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through it. So we're set up like this. We've got obviously our guys in a 45-degree angle. This player is going to come in and set a down screen pick, or down screen, sorry. So he's gonna come down in that L shape. So he's come to set that pick. Now what that's going to do is going to draw this defender as well. So obviously he's kind of come around. But if this guy drives topside, this defender is going to have to come over and switch. Okay, sorry, that's a bit slow. But as you can see, this lefty attacker right here is in a perfect position to roll off that pick and basically go towards the goal. So as I said, he wants to kind of, once he's set that pick, he wants to roll facing the ball carrier with his stick up in the air, and then, you know, be in a position basically to get a goal. So I hope that kind of makes sense to everybody. I've got a bit of a video to show you how these kind of L picks work. Now, just before I show you, the reason that we want to do an L is if this guy just runs diagonally to set a pick, the defenders can just see it. So the defenders basically just call a quick switch, and it's just not effective whatsoever. So you want to engage this defender first and then set a back pick. So don't just, I mean, you can do, but it's just not effective. We don't really want to see these guys just running diagonally straight to this defender. Engage that defender first, and then set the pick. Now, hopefully, hold on, I'll just go through that animation again. Right, so this video, credit to Patrick Chapler over at Parallax. I just kind of took this off one of his videos because it's a really, really good example of this just kind of L pick and how it works. Now, basically, this guy is essentially going to pass the ball to his teammate down here. He's going to engage this defender and then come set a back pick on this player and then roll towards the net. This guy is going to drive topside, which is basically it's a perfect example of what I've just shown you. So hopefully we're just gonna play it and hopefully you'll be able to see it. So he comes down, he sets that back pick, okay, and then there is the kind of the pop. Now I'll just play that again. So he sends that pass down, he goes to set an L pick. There's the back pick, and then obviously that kind of little roll and receive of the pass. Now, if I'm going to be a bit of a critique on it, he could have engaged his defender a lot more. Okay, so he kind of came down he did the L shape, but he could have made it a little bit more. You know, he could have emphasized it a little bit more. But he's down, and then he's there. Boom, bang, fantastic. Rob, did everyone manage to see that, or?
Yeah, it was good enough for me. Others, if anyone else had any issues, shout.
Perfect. If it's a case that you can't really see it or whatever, then do get in touch with me. I'm happy to kind of send these videos across, and as I don't think they'll kind of show in the PowerPoint that I send Rob. But as I said, if you want to ask me, I'm more than happy. Now, just a very quick one on something that you might hear that's called a brush pick or a slip pick. Now, essentially, what these are is you look like you're going to set a pick. So if we went back to that video, if we went back to this video and the guy has passed down, he looks like he's going to set a pick now, but then instead of setting that pick, he basically would just kind of run to goal, or he would make it look like he's setting a pick, but he wouldn't. He would just kind of cut instead. So it's almost like a pretend pick. Now I've just got a video here of Mark Matthews in the Canada and Iroquois game. This is a perfect example of a slip pick. Now, I don't know where he is actually in the video. I think he's here. Let's play it. I'll play it a couple of times so we can see. But here he is. He's coming to set that pick, and then he literally just changes his speed and cuts in. So I'll play that again so everyone can see it. So he's here. He's coming down to looks like he's setting a pick, but instead he just cuts through and receives the pass. So just one more time. Okay, so he's here. All right, so it's almost like he's looking to set a pick. He's putting his defender in a situation where they're like, right, a pick's coming, a pick's coming, a pick's coming, and then boom, he explodes and then just receives a pass really simply. Now, brush and slip picks are really, really effective if you use them. Now, you want to be kind of like mixing up what you do. You might set an up screen, a down screen. You might come across the floor, set a pick on the weak side. You might then go and set a pick back on the strong side. You then might do a brush pick. You then might do a slip pick. You always want to be kind of unpredictable and as fluid as much, and basically make sure that the defense don't really know what you're doing. So again, hopefully you kind of understand what I mean by a brush and a slip pick. And then another thing I just wanted to talk about is something that we call a seal. Now, essentially, a seal is kind of it's not really a pick as such. It's more of a kind of a legal type of block. It's basically between a pick and a hold. I know that sounds a bit kind of like perhaps doesn't really make sense, but essentially this is where you run in the path of your defender and you kind of get yourself tangled up in them, and then you kind of perhaps kind of keep running in that direction. You're not holding them, but you're kind of just almost kind of pushing them. Now in box lacrosse, you're allowed to kind of make contact with players off ball if you apply equal pressure. So I can't go and just lay them out, but I can kind of run and kind of provide equal pressure and almost use my legs to kind of drive them kind of away from the play. Now here you can just see the Thompsons doing this. So one of them's come down, he's setting a seal on Bennett, and basically the other one is just coming round to take a shot off it. Now this video is an example of a seal as well. So this player here, where my cursor is going to basically run in the direction of this defender, apply kind of equal pressure, and just almost kind of get him tangled up, whilst this player kind of pulls back for a shot. So I'll just play that, and hopefully you can see it. So he kind of, it's almost like a, as I said, it's almost kind of like a hold, but not. I'll just play that again. So he's coming, so he's just kind of tangling that defender up, and his teammate is just kind of pulling back for a shot. So just one more time. He's coming up, he's sealing that player. Yeah, now you can essentially do these. Well, no, sorry, I've got to be careful what I say here. You can essentially do the same principle in field lacrosse, in the sense that you can't obviously tangle up and interfere with players, but you can still kind of position yourself in a way that when you're running, you can kind of interrupt defender slides and things like that. To, you know, obviously we can't in the field, you know, go and kind of hold a player like you kind of see here in box lacrosse. But it's just another a way of kind of effectively kind of making space on the floor. So just one more time, he comes up, he just stops that player, and just opens up his teammate for a shot. Now, again, credit to LNS videos for this one. Again, just a really good example of a seal. Now, it's quite funny, actually. I found it really hard to find a good seal. A lot of seals that you kind of see aren't really executed effectively, but that one was okay. It wasn't too bad. So so thanks LNS videos for that video. Now, I think the thing that I perhaps find most useful. Now, I know I think we're kind of getting to kind of about 10:40 or such. So I'll try to speed up a little bit and kind of open up for a few Q&As. But drills that you can use in your practices. Now, I think this is the thing that I find the most useful when I come to these things. What can I do as a coach or as a player to help kind of create guys into what we want? Now, with box lacrosse, it's this, and field. The guys that know me coaching at Bristol Uni, decision making is a massive thing. Now, I think at Bristol, obviously being at field, I think the success that we have, we tend to get guys that have never played the game before, and we get them to quite a high level in a very short space of time, because we focus on this kind of decision making thing. So essentially what I try and do is force players to think about what they have to do and force them to make those decisions in a very short space of time. Now, this is really good in box lacrosse because it's so fast and fluid. We want to be making those decisions quickly. So everything I do drill wise, whether it be box or field, is thinking about this decision making, forcing players to think about what they have to do, and trying to get them to think about multiple things at once, kind of in a small space. It's fast paced, and basically what this will do is enhance the decision making process. It'll allow players to make decisions quickly and in a short space of time. So I've got about kind of 6-7 drills just to show you. Now, I won't go through too much, but you guys can obviously go away and have a look at these slides and take them back to your practices. As I say, it's my secrets to success, so don't share them out too widely. But here's me saying I'm posting them on Seminar now. But some of these you might have seen before, and some of them are perhaps more kind of, you might see them more in the field game. Some you might see more in the box game, but you can transfer them over definitely between the two. Now, the first one, I call it kind of the decision-making circle. Essentially, what you want to do, you want to find an area of space. That you can either mark this out with cones. A draw circle in the women's game is perfect for this if you have one. If you're doing it on a box floor, you can either use perhaps the attacking end or the neutral zone, or you might mark it out with cones. Now, essentially what you have two teams. You have an attacking team and a defensive team. The attackers are posted up in the area that you're working in, and they're making a pass with each other. Now, as soon as they make a pass, a defender from the outside of the area comes in to basically disrupt and play defense. So it might be this player plays one, a defender comes in. They might make another pass, the second defender comes in. They might make another pass, the third defender comes in, and so on and so on. Now, obviously, what this does is the attackers know at the start that they've got a bit of kind of thinking time, because obviously there's less defenders. Now, the more defenders that come in, they have to start kind of speeding up the decision making, have to be, assessing what's going on in the field, where the defenders are, where our teammates are, etc., etc. And it's just a really good, I tend to do this as kind of a warm up, or like first kind of 10-15 minutes stick skill wise, and kind of quick reps. If the attack drop the ball, you're done, you're gone, as in you switch over. So the defense become the attack become the defense. And you kind of make it a bit of a competition to see who can get the most amount of passes. Now, you can either kind of go up to even numbers, or what I like to do as well is send in more defenders than there are attackers. So you then have kind of double teams. The attackers have to work harder. They have to move more. They have to pick and roll a lot more to get free. And then if you really wanted to, if you had a lot of players, you could add a third team where you could kind of plonk the third team around the outside of the area just to throw in some checks if the attackers get a bit too close to the edge. That kind of works well if you've got a lot of players. So hopefully that makes it. Any questions on that one?
No.
We're good. Perfect. Now this one is one of my personal faves. I think I don't know where I kind of picked this one up from. Credit to really, as lacrosse coaches, we obviously pick things up along the way. And, if this looks like kind of one of your drills, then credit to you. And thank you for kind of, inspiring me to kind of work with this one a little bit. This is called what I like to call the decision plus sign. So essentially what you have is I'm not particularly a fan of line drills. I always say that to my players. I don't think line drills are particularly that realistic. And they don't really kind of teach much. So what I kind of mix them up a little bit. And basically what we have here is we have kind of two line drills crossing each other. So obviously this one going up. Hello? Sorry, was that a question?
No, that was Ryan just come off mute, but I think he might have a problem with his mic. So I just muted him, but we'll try him again in a minute.
No worries.
Jump in if you've got a question.
I thought it was a bit of singing going on. So no worries. So what we basically have is we have two line drills that kind of cross each other. Okay, so this area here kind of gets to be a little kind of a pressured area, where guys kind of have to kind of look out for players that are running across, and all that kind of stuff. Now, what I like to do with this is I basically tell the lines to do different things. So it might be that we might start off just very simply, two line drills crossing each other. So they just have to look out for obviously not hitting your teammates in the head with the ball, and also not running into your teammates. But then it might be that we say kind of, run left, pass straight. So you're passing to the line opposite you, but then you then have to go to the line that's to the left of you. Now, what's really important in this drill is that the guys or girls get to the middle before doing what they need to do. So they get to the middle, then they make their pass, and then they run in the direction that they need to. So, it might be, as I said, run straight, pass left. So this player with the ball is going to come in and pass, what did I say? I can't remember. Pass straight and then run left. And at the same time, this person's doing the same thing. So we have kind of a lot of traffic. Now, don't worry, the lines basically stay even if you do it right, but you can kind of have fun with it in terms of you can kind of get the lines doing different things. It might be that you get the lines going vertically to do ground balls, and you do the line going horizontally to do passing and catching. Now, obviously, you've just got to be very careful in terms of a safety aspect. Really, players need to be, well, not necessarily need to be able to pass and catch, but you just need to obviously make sure that they're aware of kind of, running over loose balls and, passing and watching people's heads and stuff like that. But what this does is if you put the onus on the players to make these decisions, they have to think about not hitting their teammate in the head. They have to think about avoiding running past them or running over a loose ball. So this is a really a good one for that. Now, hopefully that kind of makes sense, as it's quite hard to explain it on a screen. But if you've got any questions, obviously, please feel free or get in contact with me another time. That's fine. Now, what I do with this is I essentially build this up even more. So here we have what I call the double decision plus sign. So in this one, we basically have 2 line drills vertically, 2 line drills horizontally. Now in this one, the lines are working directly opposite one another. So these 2 lines are working with these 2, and so vertically, and then these 2 lines are working horizontally. So these guys are working with these guys opposite them. Now with this one, what you do, you can either kind of pass straight, run diagonally, or it might be that you pass diagonally and run straight. And when you kind of have this going on at the same time, obviously, again, it creates a lot of traffic where guys have to think about what they're doing. Do I send the pass? Are we communicating? Do I know who I'm passing to? All that kind of stuff. Now, what I also like to do is sometimes I might have this left sideline is passing, and this right sideline is ground balls. So if you do your action straight and then run diagonally, you're then immediately doing something different. So you're always thinking about what you're doing, whether it's passing and catching, avoiding teammates' heads, all that kind of stuff. Now, again, just a safety aspect, just making sure that guys are aware. Now, if you're kind of starting off with this drill, make it big to give guys more space and more time to make those decisions. And then as they get better and better and more advanced, you're going to kind of make this drill a little bit smaller. So it's much quicker, much more fast paced, much more decision making having to be done. And then what I call the mighty mama of all of them, okay, is add a third one in. Okay, so you've got all of this going on. So it's essentially the same thing. So whether you're a vertical line or a horizontal line or a diagonal line, you're always working with the line directly opposite you. And as I said, you can pass straight, run diagonally, or pass diagonally, run straight, whatever it is, ground balls, like loads of different things that you can do. And this is really good fun, and it's very satisfying as a coach as well if you manage to get it to the point where the guys are doing it really effectively. So hopefully you take these away, and this one, again, especially if you've got loads and loads of players, again, it's a really good drill that gets everybody involved, everybody thinking, everyone enhancing their decision making, and it's great for stick skills, and in the box game especially, those quick stick skills and the quick decision and the communication and all that kind of stuff is vital, and again, really good for field lacrosse as well, because we should be incorporating both sides, field and box, in one another. Now, just a couple of more box specific ones, I would say, but again, ones that you can do kind of in the field game. This one's just a really simple snake shooter. So you essentially have all your right-handed players on the left side of the floor, and it's literally, they all have a ball, and they literally just run across the goalie. They're trying to move the goalie from his position. So coming across the goal, you might fake near side, shoot far side, or whatever you kind of want to do. In the box game, we tend to do this as a bit of a warm up for the goalies. We'll basically purposefully hit it at the goalie's chest, just so they get used to those shots coming, and then we'll kind of ramp it up to you're actually trying to score. Now this one you can easily do in the field game as well. Coming across the cage and trying to move that goalkeeper, is really effective. So again, something that we don't really see much in the field game is just this really quick fire snake shooting drill. But hopefully that is kind of pretty self-explanatory. Now, obviously, you can do it on the left side as well. In box, you would tend to probably have your right-handers do it right-handed most of the time, whereas in field, you'd switch up kind of both hands wise. But again, kind of do what you want to do, kind of with it. Now the next two, I've only got literally 2 or 3 left. and then we're done. But these just a bit more explanation, I think, for these ones. This one is an up down pick and shot drill. So basically, you have 4 corners. Each of these 4 corners have balls, and you're going to work one side of the floor at a time. So what would happen is this right-handed player without a ball would come and set kind of an imaginary pick. This right-handed player would kind of slip underneath the pick, and they would basically essentially both kind of roll off. The person that set the pick would roll off and receive a feed from this top left corner and take kind of a more of an outside shot. This right-handed player that slipped underneath would basically take kind of a more of an inside, perhaps kind of fake the goalie inside finish type of shot. Now essentially you would run it one side and then basically alternate straight away. So the right side would do it, and then the next person in the left guy's lines would basically run the same pick and roll but on this side. So this player would come up, set a pick here. This player would run underneath. This person would roll off, and then they receive feeds kind of from the other side. Now you can obviously rotate the lines that you're in, get the guys doing different stuff, whether that's set a pick or sneaking underneath or feeding. But again, just to kind of get in the mindset of kind of pick and rolls, a really, really good drill. And again, something that you should be doing in the field game. So especially kind of when we play kind of a 2-2-2, I know a lot of guys like kind of the pass down, pick down type stuff in a 22. So again, a really good drill that you can just be doing in your field practices, but that's also going to kind of enhance the box mindset. Any questions on that one? Are we good?
Quick one, Pete.
Yeah.
Is this with or without a goalie? Because there'll probably be a simultaneous shot.
Okay, so basically what we tend to do, so you can do it either. So obviously it's a little easier without a goalie in the sense that you don't have to worry too much about when a shot is taken. But we do it with a goalie, and basically what it is a case that the inside finisher, so the person that's sneaking underneath the pick would shoot first, and then the outside shot would come after that. And essentially it would be you would time it in such a way that the inside finisher would go. It would then allow the goalie just a very a quick reset before the outside shot came. You kind of want to do it with the outside shot coming second. Obviously, because you don't want an outside shot hitting the inside finisher, or it kind of going too quickly for the goalie. So you can either do it either without a goalie, or if you are doing it with a goalie, it's literally just a case of inside finish first and then an outside, and then obviously you then alternate. And while the picks are being made, the goalie has a little bit more time to reset on his other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
So that's one. So we just got 2 more, I believe. Now this one I call the 2-man swing drill. Now I run this a lot when I can. Obviously this year has been, I can't even remember the last time I managed to see kind of my Bristol guys, but if I can, I like to run this one, which is I call it a 2-man swing drill. So basically you have 2 attackers and 2 defenders on one side of the floor, and the same on the other side of the floor, obviously kind of righty and lefty. You have a coach basically with some balls in the middle. Now what this coach is going to do, he's going to feed the ball to one side, and these 2 guys are gonna work something. They might do a pick and roll. They might even do a one-on-one, depending on where the defenders are, whatever. But they're trying to get to the goal. Now they're going to work it for like 3 or 4 seconds. So they're going to try something. They might do kind of maybe 1 or 2 picks, and if they haven't got anything from it, they're going to swing the ball back to the coach, who's going to swing it to the other side, and the exact same thing is going to happen. So they're going to run kind of a 2-man game, pick and roll type stuff for kind of 4 or 5 seconds. If nothing's on, they're going to swing it back to the coach, and the coach is going to swing it to the far side. Now you can do this in a number of ways. You can either have these guys in the drill for kind of 3 or 4 repetitions, or you can alternate literally each time. So it might be that these guys work something, they then spin the ball back to the coach, and then they rotate out and a new set of guys comes in while this is happening over here. Now, if something is happening on one side, basically the other side is just kind of almost just standing kind of out of the way until the ball basically comes to their side. If you want to kind of modify this drill, you can essentially have it that whilst say the ball is down here with the two lefties and they're working something on ball, you can have these guys do something off ball as well to try and get free to help out these guys as well if you wanted to modify it. But what I like is really kind of to do to the two-man side and just focus on the two-man side, because it gets it in their head that they want to work something for kind of 4 or 5 seconds. If it's not on, just spin it to the coach or the swinger or the point man, who then swings it to the other side. So this drill kind of just promotes that, moving the ball across the sides of the floor as much as possible. Obviously working a two-man game, your pick and roll game, and obviously it's good reps for the defense as well, in terms of obviously they have to communicate with one another, call switches and stuff on the picks, etc., etc., etc. Now again, no reason whatsoever why you can't do this in the field game. And again, instead of having a coach, you might just have a player that is the swinger, just to get them some extra reps in. But I think this is a really good. This transfers well to kind of the 2-2-2 in field. But yeah, a really good box one. And then lastly, just another one that we do. Sorry. Just to go back to that slide very quickly. Again, this one with the two-man, it's those decisions. You're trying to basically kind of promote the, if something's on or not. If it's not on, you want to get rid of the ball. If it is on, obviously you want to take the opportunity. So always think about the decisions. And then lastly, this kind of 3v2 drill. Now 3v2s are pretty, you've got West Jenny drills and stuff in the field. They're pretty self-explanatory, but in the box game we just do it ever so slightly different to promote or to essentially force guys to kind of come across the correct side of the floor and take the good angle shots essentially. Now essentially this should be happening in field as well. A lot of the time we have guys that are taking shots from these kind of angles, which isn't that great really. We want to be kind of being more kind of in front of the goal and becoming coming top side and stuff. But basically how this drill works is we have 3 lines that kind of start behind the goal. We have essentially our right-handed players start on the right side of the floor, which essentially would this is basically where you would normally find your left-handers, but I'll explain it in a minute. The left-handed players start on what would be the right-handed side of the floor. And then you've got a defensive line. Now what happens is the balls are with the defense. One of the defense is going to pass to one of the lines on the outside. Now we might send 2 right-handed players and 1 left-handed player. Now these guys are going to run up. They're going to receive the ball from the defense. They then might kind of pass amongst each other as they're getting to the correct side of the floor. So these right-handed players are coming across to this side of the floor. This left-handed player is going to come across to this side of the floor, and then they're going to work a 3-on-2. So 2 defenders are going to come out. And again, you're just kind of, what you're trying to do is obviously draw defenders, draw and dump kind of mentality like we have in field, and obviously kind of work something, and then hopefully get a good shot where it might be that, I don't know, we've drawn this defender, the pass has been made, we draw the next defender, pass has been made, and then the last attacker is in a good position to come across the goal and kind of score. So hopefully, that kind of makes sense. Just one thing I would just say in the field thing, again, just from a safety point of view, obviously kind of lining up behind the goal, you just got to be really careful of shots. Obviously make sure that the people behind the goal are paying attention. Obviously it's slightly easier from a guy perspective in terms of we've got helmets and things, but even so, we don't have the box pads like we do in the box game, so we've just got to be a bit careful. And it's the same with the women. Obviously, women, don't have the helmets, so you just got to be really, really, kind of careful when you do this one in terms of shots behind the goal. But if anything, you can just move lines kind of as you see fit. But really, your players should be focusing on what's happening in the drill and kind of watching their teammates and stuff. So So yeah, so that kind of brings me to the end. Apologies if I've kind of run over a little bit. You know, and if anyone's got any questions, hopefully it was that good that I've hopefully explained things. But obviously happy to kind of take any questions, or if we want to kind of round it up there, you know, whatever we feel.
No, Pete, thanks very much. Happy to open the floor for us for any questions. So, anyone want to provide a question for Pete? Dive in.
Yeah, Pete. I've got one for me is when I've got sort of newer players, particularly in attack, and yeah, we go sort of teach them the very simple, you know, pass down, pick down sort of sequence. The problem I have is when maybe you come up against a slightly more experienced team, and obviously that's a predictable like sequence of movement that they maybe that the new players then don't really necessarily know how to then carry that forward and sort of add another layer of complexity. Now I know in theory it's add another pick in there, but yeah, so what's in a bit more? Could you flesh that out a little bit more in terms of what might be good advice to give newer players? Is okay, you've got your step one of do that pass down, pick down, and if that doesn't work, go and try this instead as a follow up.
Yeah, I think really kind of what I would say is that with that is you want to try and if we go back to, hold on, I'll just share my screen again. Let's just go back to some of the pick slides. So I think really kind of what I would say with this is obviously, you know, this up screen pick, for example, you know, I would repeat this kind of a number of times with guys so they kind of get in their head how to kind of do an up screen. And then I would kind of, you know, do the same thing with the down screen. So make them repeat that again and again and again. And then in terms of when it kind of comes to your two-man type drill, which was kind of the two-man swinging drill that we kind of had where the coach is kind of sending it to far side, it's basically if you kind of repeat each kind of move, as it were, kind of in isolation and get them to repeat, you kind of want to create that kind of muscle memory in terms of like they just obviously know kind of what they're, you know, they're used to doing that movement. And then hopefully what should happen if you do that in kind of isolation and repeat it again and again and again, you should then hopefully be able to kind of build that up in sense of, you know, it's a really tough one because I completely understand what you're saying in terms of like, you know, it's very easy just to say you do another move. But you are quite right. I think the other thing that I would say is, especially in kind of a box mentality, is being basically telling players that they can essentially do kind of whatever they want within the realm of what we're doing, if that kind of makes sense. So if something hasn't worked, move. So literally it's kind of that, it frustrates me a little bit. It's kind of the old kind of lacrosse mentality of kind of give and go, that you kind of hear a lot in kind of, you know, especially kind of in ladies, is that give and go. But it is that kind of, you know, you're trying to promote that once you've done something and it hasn't worked, move your feet and just go and do something else. And it might be that you can kind of incorporate kind of forfeits and things for guys that don't do it. So if you run that kind of two-man game where the coach is swinging it left, you know, right to left, or whatever, and the guys do something, but they do one thing, they have a forfeit. They might have to do 5 press-ups, for example, or something, just to get in their mind that they're like, right, I have to do something else than just set this down screen pick. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Cheers, Pete.
So yeah, almost kind of like, it sounds terrible, but like kind of almost like training a pet in the sense that like if they don't do something, that they you know, there's a bit of a forfeit behind it. So, you know, you've just done one thing. So if you're just going to do one thing, 5 press-ups.
So what you're saying is next time I take the Capitals to FMC, I need to take a little water spray bottle. So when they don't do picks, I spray the water in their face until they do it right. Is that what?
Yeah, just spray them.
Just checking, just clarifying.
The thing is, I think it's especially when you've got to be very careful if you're working with younger players. You've got to be very careful that they haven't perhaps developed the kind of the relationship and stuff with kind of fitness and exercise and things like that. So with forfeiting and things like that, you've just got to be very careful that they don't associate kind of fitness with kind of a punishment, because they haven't really understood that relationship. But whereas with adults, you know, I know that if I don't do something, you know, that if I've got 5 press-ups, then it starts making me think, right, I've got to do something more, otherwise I'm going to be landed with whatever and it doesn't, you know, it might not be 5 press-ups, it might be you're taking the goal off the floor at the end of the session, or anything that's just kind of they associate with that. If I don't do something else, then and again, it's just trying to get them thinking and kind of force that decision-making thing.
Yeah.
Hey, but related to that, is there like an internal clock that players should be having, thinking that they've done something, and if that hasn't worked in maybe, is it 3 or 5 seconds, do something else?
Yeah, I would.
How quick is that game clock?
Yeah, I would say basically, like, well, first of all, the one thing I'll say is in box lacrosse is always kind of the mistake that guys make, that they don't have much time, and they kind of just panic and just shoot and whatever. 30 seconds is a long time in the game of lacrosse. Now, I honestly, I'm going to try and find the link now, but there is a field game, a college game, probably about 10 years ago, and I think it was, I can't remember who it was, maybe Drex, I can't remember, but there was 6 goals scored in a minute. Now, 6 goals in a minute, that obviously, it just shows how long kind of a minute is, and basically 30 seconds is just half of that. So you essentially can score 3 goals in a minute based on that game. In terms of the internal clock, you need to be very careful that you don't get guys to panic and rush things, and you still need some kind of structure and kind of settledness essentially in box. But it's basically, what I tend to say is kind of 5 seconds. 5, so it's like 1, 2, 3, and obviously, you know, that's quite a long time for 5. And what's happened? What have I done? Have I made something has what I've done been effective? If it has, then I might do something else just to add on to it to make it even more effective. But if it hasn't, get rid of the ball. So swing it to the other side. So swing it up to the point man, get it to the other side of the floor, and then I might go away to X or Y, or I might go set a pick, do something off ball, and then it then might come. They'll do something kind of for 5 seconds, get it back to my side, and then we kind of go again. So I would say probably kind of you look in the kind of 5 seconds really of that. I want to work something. So it might be kind of 1, 2, maybe 3 pick and rolls. If you've not got anything, send it off and do something else. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense, Rob.
It does. Thanks. Any other questions for Pete? We could talk all morning, but we probably need to sort of think about wrapping up there. It's come up to 11:15. So, right. Pete, thanks very much. If you can, in your own time later today or whenever, send me that presentation. We'll get that shared. I'll get that shared along with the recording. And the plans for when we obviously restart lacrosse, we will be hopefully beginning of April, but not indoors, but we can certainly play box lacrosse outdoors. What I'll do, I'm just going to stop the recording. Thanks very much, Pete.
You're welcome.